Tell us a little bit about what you saw and being able to relay that message to Cora when you watched Kimbrel pitch and kind of help out so he wasn't tipping his pitches.
So tipping pitches, we hear about it all the time.
People at home understand what tipping pitches is all about.
It's amazing.
And that's remarkable.
Alex, this pod's going to be kind of interesting.
What? Why is that? Pregnant pause.
Sometimes I pause because I'm waiting for you to talk.
Is that how this works?
A couple reasons.
I think by year 10 I'll get it.
Okay. Year 10? So I gotta wait two more years? 2 more years and it's a decade of tipping pitches. What's gonna be going on then?
Christ.
No, 2 reasons. It's been, I think, like 15 days since we recorded a podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if that's actually the number, but it's been a good minute since we recorded a podcast. We banked everything last week because of the fact that I was on vacation. That's number 1. Number 2, I was at Yankee Stadium like 3 hours ago, and I was asleep like 23 minutes ago. I had 2 of the extra long Yankee Stadium hot dogs and 2 beers from Yankee Stadium, but the Yankee Stadium serves the largest beers I've ever seen in my life. They're like super mega tall boys. They're 25 ounces. 50 ounces of, well, I don't want to give away any free ads, but I'll just say it was Budweiser, the king of beers.
What would you call that? Edward 50 hands?
Yeah, I would call that.
Yeah.
40 hands is 2 40s, though.
I know, yeah.
So I would have needed to basically double my intake.
Yeah, but Edward 25 hands doesn't really roll off.
No, not really. Edward 20 hands is like really small, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just going to be an interesting pod. That's just what I wanted to share. Also, I got a little coffee here.
Always. Got it. Yeah. Well, also, like, things have happened.
Yeah.
It's like we actually have stuff to talk
true.
about, which also always adds a fun little wrinkle to this show whenever something happens that is relevant to our interests in the baseball world.
What are you referring to? Tyler Rogers getting traded?
Yep. Mm-hmm. I want to do an hour on the A's, obviously.
Did I tell you I watched the A's game last night?
Same.
That ballpark still doesn't look good on TV.
No.
In fact, I was watching the A's game and my phone was set down somewhere else when the Eugenio Suarez trade broke.
Mm-hmm.
And I had it announced to me live on TV like it was 2005.
Right. They were like, we interrupt your programming with an important message.
This is just how people used to find things out. I think that's the first trade that has been broken to me by something other than a push notification on my own cell phone since you were the person who broke the Yoenis Cespedes trade to me in 2015. 10 full years of this.
One of my finer moments.
That was one of your finer moments. I think
love
you just
to
texted me saying, dude.
Yeah. That's usually how it goes. I love to just like break news. Like it's like that's the bug I can't get rid of, you know? Like now it's not really happening on a meaningful scale. I suppose it never really was. But I love just being the one that like, whoa, did you just hear that this person died? And then everyone's like, oh, and they're really sad. And I'm like, uh-huh.
You love that feeling? That's really interesting. You were kind of a news guy. You know, you came up through the news world, the news journalism world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you sports kids don't know anything about that.
You had to get all your quotes from both sides of the aisle.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure each side was equally represented.
We're starting this pod like we started the very first Tipping Pitches pod 8 years ago, which is probably talking about what we were doing at the student paper at that given time.
That's actually really true. It's funny how that works.
Yeah.
Today is our 8th anniversary episode. This podcast is obviously later than our episode usually comes out during the week. Like I said, some travel interrupted our normal recording time, and then some work responsibilities interrupted our ability to record earlier this week, and we thought it might be appropriate to just wait until wait to record this until July 31st, which again, exact 8-year anniversary. We're going to talk a little bit about that at the end of the show. But as Alex alluded to, we have real news to talk about on this week's episode. Not just trade deadline related news, but of course, the news that he was referring to, I believe, was that Bryce Harper and one Rob Manfred went nose to nose is the phrase that was used. Nose to nose, according to Jeff Passan, in the Phillies clubhouse after Manfred went on his goodwill tour through Philadelphia. We're going to talk about that.
If they went nose to nose, that probably means that they also went other things, right?
What do you mean by that?
I'm just visualizing it. I don't know. Don't ask why.
Is this the first time you've ever visualized that?
Well, it's usually not Rob Manfred, but
who is it? You're more of a Morgan Sword guy.
And then later in this episode.
What a weird start to this episode. I told you it was going to be weird. Told you the energy was going to be weird. Then later in the episode, we'll be joined by Hannah Kaiser to give a little bit of background context about her firsthand recollection of reporting some of the stuff that happened in the Phillies clubhouse. Obviously, she was not in there while Manfred was talking. It was a closed door meeting, but she did talk to several of the Phillies players, most notably Nick Castellanos, after these events unfolded. So we'll talk to her a little bit about that. Before we do all of that wonderful stuff, I am Bobby Wagner.
I am Alex Baisley.
And boy, oh boy, you're listening to the Tipping Pitches podcast. New patrons this week, Alex. We got 3 of them. I think one of them is an upgrade, but I'm just going to give them a shout out anyway because we love upgrades. We love all of you upgrading. We love new signups. We love upgrades. We love downgrades as long as you still pay $5. You know, if you got a downgrade, that's fine, but stay in the $5 tier. We love free members. We love it all. Thanks to this week's new patrons, Ginger Spurs Boy, Alexis, and Ethan. We have some really exciting stuff coming up on the Patreon next week. Do you want to take a quick moment to talk about it so that people can potentially sign up and get ready to experience this content?
I think that's a great idea.
Okay, great. So our next main feed episode will be the... Now, have we talked about this on the podcast before?
I believe we have.
Okay. So our friend Matthew Robertson from Gentleman's Quarterly, aka GQ, that's a magazine. He came on the podcast a few months ago to talk about his profile of Francisco Lindor, fashion icon. And in the course of that conversation, and in the course of talking about his time on the beat at Citi Field covering the Mets, we got word of the fact that he had once been at a press event for the release of Mike Piazza's vodka. And through a quick Google search, we realized it didn't really seem like Mike Piazza's vodka was doing too well, based on the fact that the website for Mike Piazza's vodka needed a password when we tried to click into it. The Instagram for Mike Piazza's vodka doesn't post anything anymore. Yeah. And I have never seen a commercial for this product. And I feel as though I get a lot of targeted baseball content. And
yeah, the platform on which it was released exclusively no longer exists.
Yeah, that's good stuff. That's really good stuff. And so it became a little bit of a goal of ours to try Mike Piazza's vodka because the description of the vodka made it seem like a very high end product. So we wanted to get a little taste, of the Mike Piazza's vodka, more casually known to listeners of the podcast and Alex Baisley as what?
As true vodka.
Well, also P vodka. You remember P vodka? See, look, I threw you a lob, and what'd you do? You just laid it in. You didn't dunk it. Come on.
I kind of forgot we already made that joke because when you started talking about this, when you said Mike Piazza's vodka, in my head I was like,
P vodka.
Vodka? Is that something? And then I was like, no, I don't think it is.
You thinking a joke is too dumb that you've actually already done but forgotten about is really funny. Yeah. Is that growth or is that regression?
I think that's some sort of degeneration.
Okay. Well, in looking for a way to acquire this vodka, I thought, hey, wouldn't it be fun if we did a little taste test of all the different kinds of liquors and maybe beers and maybe wines that are affiliated and or owned or prominently sponsored by Major League Baseball players or Major League Baseball adjacent figures, coaches, owners, etc. And the list is longer than you might think, dear listener. Some of you might have taken note of the fact that I asked for submissions over on X, the Everything app, a place where you can get everything you need. Did you see that report today that said that 76% of users on X are bots?
Mm-hmm. Tough way for tipping pitches to get outed.
I appreciate the bots who taught me about Weigel whiskey, owned by Bob Nutting, because we will be trying that and many other things on next week's episode with our friend Matthew Robertson. What do we call it? The MLB liquor taste test, the booze baseball booze taste test. I don't know. We haven't really nailed the name yet.
Right. We have 24 hours to come up with something catchy.
Right, because we're banking it tomorrow. So we're recording part 1 of that. That'll be next week's main feed episode. Part 2 of it, where we taste every single one of the things that we've acquired. It's many things. It's going to be an interesting piece of content.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who have loved such iconic episodes as the Power Hour, or the Power Hour Part 2 even, this is going to be really up your alley. Part's going to be part 1. We're going to taste every single one in successive order. Part 2, we're going to do a little snake back. We're going to slingshot back and taste them again.
Yep.
And part 2, you guessed it. Where's it going to be? Patreon.com/tippingpitches. And as a celebration of this wondrous piece of content that we're creating, I'm going to create a little discount code. How does it sound to get 50% off a month of the Tipping Pitches Patreon, the top tier, for the price of the bottom tier, to test out whether or not this kind of content is for you? The baseball booze taste test. It just doesn't roll off the tongue.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah. I don't know. We're working on it.
Yeah.
Part 2 will be available to you for the discounted price of just $5 to sign up for 1 month.
Would you say it's a little taste test of tipping pitches that you're offering to the listeners?
All right. I would say that.
Okay. Just making sure we're on the same page.
Put it on a hat. A taste test of tipping pitches. If you use code PIAZZA while signing up for the Tipping Pitches Patreon, you will get this 50% discount. Now, this only applies if you are not currently a member. If you are currently a member, thank you for your great support. If you're currently a $5 member and you want to upgrade to the $10 tier, I don't think that there's a way to do that within Patreon where I can give you a discount. But
unsubscribe, right? So
don't tell people to unsubscribe.
End your subscription. Create a new Patreon. Look,
these are the world's worst businessmen right here, ladies.
I'm just telling people what I would do.
No, here's what you would do. Here's what you should do. You should just upgrade, and then if you really feel strongly that you want the discount code, like if you're this passionate about it, just tell me.
Yeah,
like email me or something, or like just send us a message on Patreon, and I'll just find a way to like refund it. I don't know.
I think we'll refund last month's.
Yeah, but that's going to be a lot of work. But I'm willing to do that for people to experience the great wonders of the baseball booze taste test part 2. Anything to add? How are you feeling? Are you like preparing your body for this experience?
I'm not going to lie. I'm a little nervous. It's in large part because it is a vast array of like types of liquors.
It's never stopped you before.
You know what? That's true. Although I'm older and wiser now, and I've learned that maybe it should have.
I agree that you're one of those two things.
Is this where you reveal to the listeners that I'm like Benjamin Button from Aging in Reverse?
That's actually such a messed up image. It's me imagining you as like a tiny little baby. Us doing this podcast 10 years from now, and you're just like 9.
If the Riverside AI generator has anything to say about it.
Don't give them free ads.
Okay.
Budweiser was one thing, but Riverside, come on.
You can bleep it out.
All right. Okay. In some ways, this episode that we're doing is also kind of a celebration of your birthday. I think we're going to actually drop it on your birthday so that it doesn't bury this episode. So it'll be out on Tuesday. I don't know. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
So we're reining in 29 by you tasting, by us spending like hundreds of dollars on a bunch of alcohols that are probably bad.
Yes. And that most likely will not be touched after tomorrow.
Speak for
The
yourself.
beers, maybe.
No, speak for yourself.
Yeah.
I'm going to smash that Field of Dreams whiskey nightly.
You actually will. You're a whiskey guy.
Not really. Not anymore.
Hmm.
Well, I'm just going to like give it out to people as souvenirs. Wait, we can sell it.
Sell it by the shot.
Right. I think that's just called opening a bar. I was thinking more like we could sell it in vials like Sydney Sweeney's bathwater. You know, this is Alex Baisley's Weigel whiskey.
Do we need to do something to it? Do I need to like the backwash in it?
All right. Should
we start the podcast?
Yeah, this is too much, actually.
Too much.
Sign up for the Patreon.
This is main feed. Like
promo code Piazza. Promo code Piazza. It's also tripping me up that we're like kind of wearing shirts that look the same.
Yeah, they're not exactly the same, but even like the font is like kind of the same.
Where is this shirt? What is this shirt that you're wearing? For the video listeners.
For the video listeners who can see.
AKA viewers, that's the word for that.
It took me a second. Bookstore at the end of the world. This was like a collective setup during COVID to support like local bookstores.
Let's go.
Local booksellers.
I was off work today, so I'm wearing my work sucks shirt.
That's nice.
Whenever I wear this when I'm off work and I'm like interacting with another person who's at their job, like at Yankee Stadium, I'm buying concessions. I always feel a little bad, but people always compliment it. They're like, "I agree with that, brother," and I'm like, "Yeah, sorry, but yeah."
Work sucks, but serve me my drink. Come on, let's go. Chop, chop.
Chop, chop. I think I've never said the phrase chop, chop to a person before.
I don't think so either. I think it's mostly been... No, I think that's not true. I've probably said it to my...
You've probably said it to me before.
I probably have said it to you. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's talk about the trade deadline real quick.
What?
The Major League Baseball trade deadline, Alex.
Let me just pull up MLB.com real quick.
It was a big one.
Yeah, it kind of, look, I'm not going to lie. It kind of snuck up on me. There were a couple sprinkles of trades throughout the week. And I mean, I suppose that's kind of the nature of the trade deadline, is that nothing happens until everything is happening all at once.
Would you say that you would describe that as nothing is moving as the two sides are moving ever so closer?
That's exactly how I would put it. Yes.
What stands out to you? There's a couple things that stand out to me. I mean, we're not the podcast to like run trade by trade. I think it was voluminous. I think there were a lot of trades, and it was a flurry at the end here. It usually is. It felt like even more so this year. I don't have data to back that up. I have vibes to back that up. One thing I will say, I think Jeff Passan has lost the plot on what is breaking and what is not. That's just a take I have. Okay. He did throw in a super utility man, so we're checking all of our boxes. Willie Castro, super utility man. But what stood out to you about this trade deadline?
I kind of don't know how AJ Preller does it. Like anything that he does, the volume. Where he's gonna put all these players.
Yeah, hopefully on the field.
Well, it's impressive.
Hopefully into the virtual ballpark, so I can see him.
I don't know. It just I am perpetually shocked. Like, I suppose he kind of runs a baseball team how I kind of would, which is like a little bit frantic and a little bit of a flurry.
Respectfully, and I don't think that you would run a baseball team like this.
You don't? Okay. You don't think I would be as good of a GM as AJ Preller?
I think you would be a good GM. I just don't think that you would be this hyperactive based on my experience with you.
That's true. I did
making this many trades involves Well, a couple things. Number one, quick decision making. Number two, answering text messages from other GMs.
The phone, yeah.
And the phone. Number three, audacity. I don't know, confidence. These are things that we lack.
That's true. Yeah, the trust that things will work out.
Oh, and number four, being able to upset the players who are on your team by shipping them out. You famously hate when baseball players are sad.
Yeah,
you'd be terrible at the trade deadline.
I'd like to recant my statement.
The Honorable Alex Baisley has recanted his testimony, and I
can't even trade players on my fantasy team. You know,
that's sad. Actually,
it's a little sad.
That's sad. Yeah, Preller is he's always on one, but we've come to expect this now. People are always so surprised by it, but like, why?
I guess I'm not surprised by it, but it feels like the same thing happens every year, and I guess I'm mostly a little impressed how much he sticks to his guns. Even though that some of the like quote unquote all-in moves that he makes over the years, in fact, you could argue all of the all-in moves that he's made over the years have not actually led to the most desirable outcome of winning a World Series, right? But he still approaches every deadline with that fire and tenacity and as you like audacity to say, fuck it, chips in. We'll trade the number 3 prospect in baseball. We don't care.
For a reliever?
For a reliever. Yeah.
I mean, albeit a good reliever, but still.
Uh-huh.
Relievers are too overvalued now. This much, you're fetching the 3rd best prospect in baseball. You're not going to become a weird podcaster 8 years from now. Like, we need relievers to continue to fill the pipeline of weird baseball podcasters that they're filling now. Can I read you a list that I saw someone passing around of all of the prospects that Preller has traded? Not all of them, just many of the big name ones.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Trey Turner, James Wood, Max Fried, Josh Naylor, Andres Munoz, Mackenzie Gore, David Bednar, CJ Abrams, Xavier Edwards, Zach Eflin, Hunter Renfroe, Leo DeVries was today, Braden Nett, Ryan Weathers, Bobby Snelling, and River Ryan. There are plenty of other ones on here who were like highly touted prospects who didn't really turn into much of anything. Even some of these guys on this list are like not really relevant guys, but that's still a huge list of guys, way more top relevant prospects than any other GM has traded away. There are plenty of GMs who have like gotten back big prospect hauls by trading away their big stars, and so it's not totally unfathomable that there would be this volume of prospects moving in the market based on how teams operate right now. But like my takeaway from that is that he's good. He's a good GM. He's built a good team in a different way than the other teams have been built. And I'm like, yeah, that's a lot of names, but like, look who's on the team. Look who he got.
Right.
Like, look who's on the team. Look who's been on the team when he's with the GM.
Right. No, it could have been worse.
Fucking Juan Soto, Yu Darvish, Dylan Cease, Fernando Tatis Jr., Manny Machado. Some of these guys Machado was a signing, and so was Bogarts and a number of these guys. But I feel like these have been good trades.
Do you think? How long has he been the GM? 8, 10 years now.
He has
probably a little less than that.
He has been the general manager of the Padres since August 6th, 2014. 11 years.
11 years.
Yeah. Is he Pobo now, though?
I don't care.
Nobody cares. He is president of baseball operations.
Yeah, of course. Do you think he's a good GM?
I do. I actually do. I mean, why do all of the guys who just prospect hug and like try to get the best draft picks and reset and do all these other things, like why do they get the benefit of the concept of the process? Trust this is the right process, even if we haven't gotten the best outcome. This is the process that yielded the Cubs and the Astros a World Series. This is the process that resets the luxury tax so we can continue. Like, why do these guys get the benefit of process over outcome versus AJ Preller, who's just acquiring all the best players in the league through his own process and hasn't quite yet had the best outcome. He had the second best team in baseball last year. They got bounced by the Dodgers in the closest series that the Dodgers had. Then the Dodgers dog walked the Mets and the Yankees on their way to winning the World Series. Pretty good process.
Yeah.
It's a better process than whatever the fuck Jerry DiPoto's been doing for the last 7 years. And yet people love to talk about how he's all like I know people have kind of like softened their stance a little bit on whether or not Jerry DiPoto is a good GM. Like people have kind of come around to the fact that like, okay, just a little kind of, he's been doing kind of little bullshit around the edges and like he's more of a player development type general manager, which of course is a part of it. But the same thing can be said for Preller, who's developing all these prospects to be traded away in the first place. Seems like he's able to pick which good players in the majors he wants to. Honestly, the way that I view Preller is a little bit Moneyball-esque. It's just not Moneyball. It's the same conceptual thinking of like, no one else wants to do this. There's an arbitrage opportunity for me, our favorite phrase on this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just trade away these prospects because everyone else is prospect hugging. So I'll just overwhelm everybody at the deadline and no one will beat me. And I'll get all of the players I want. He comes out of every deadline with the players he wants. Isn't that the job of the general manager of your baseball team?
I think so. Probably. Right? I think it's a reasonable question of like, are those the right players to want?
Are they not? No. Who did he get at the deadline this year? Mason Miller.
Good player. JP Sears. Ryan O'Hearn. Ramon Laureano.
Ramon Laureano kind of stinks, but he's a good defender. Ryan O'Hearn's good. It's a good bat.
Freddie Fermin.
Good catcher.
Mm-hmm.
They got Nestor Cortez. That's going to move the needle. Look,
I don't know. I'm in my just asking questions era of
I love that. I love
considering
this for you.
AJ Preller.
I love this for you.
Win the division first. Then get back to me.
You want him to win the division over the Dodgers? Like, there's a reasonable case to be made that this is the best stretch by any team in baseball history in terms of consistent excellence. And he's at least trying. Like, can I make a basketball comparison?
I have to hand it for him for trying when I think a lot of other teams would look at the divisional race and say, the Dodgers are, you pencil them in for first place. The Diamondbacks are hanging around depending on the year. It would be easy for us to do a sort of AL Central type thing and just try and end up in the middle and squeak into the playoffs, which to his credit, he hasn't done. And make your basketball comparison.
Well, two things. I think that the criticism of this kind of behavior, like we've heard it with Dave Dombrowski, he just raises the farm, like he just raises RAZES, raises it. It's done. He trades everyone away. And then within 5 years, it's like, there's nothing left.
Yeah.
I think that's a fair criticism, but Preller has proven that that's not the case. We just said that he's been the GM for 11 years and he's still able to do this.
Right.
So
they're
whether
still
or not
actually developing prospects as well.
Exactly. And I think that's where he maybe gets discredited a little bit or underrated as a GM. The other thing is that, like, to me, this is very similar to what the Houston Rockets did around 2016 to 2020, where it was clear that the Warriors were the best team in the league. And then they added Kevin Durant, and it was clear that the Warriors had no shot of losing the title. Except in 2018, they almost lost to the Rockets in the Western Conference Finals because Steph Curry got hurt. And like, anything can happen, even more so in baseball.
Yeah.
And so I actually really admire and commend what AJ Preller has been willing to do in an era when most GMs are not willing to do stuff like this. And in a way, I sort of feel like I don't mean to overstate it, but I sort of feel like he has like changed the market single-handeded. He's raised the price for what it costs to acquire
RAISED.
That's exactly right. A little wordplay for you guys here on the Tipping Pitches podcast.
Same as it ever was.
Some linguistics humor. Is that what linguistics is? I kind of don't.
I don't know. We always say that, but
lingual humor.
Uh-huh.
Yes, he's raised the price of what it costs to get a player. He's made other teams have to pay more. He's made rebuilding teams ask for more. He's made this a more competitive market. Him and a couple other people too. But look at me, like David Stearns is dealing shit away at the deadline. David Stearns, the one prospect hugger to rule them all, is just like, fuck it. Let's go. Let's get Ryan Helsley. Let's get Tyler Rogers. Let's get Cedric Mullins. I don't even care. I don't even need these players. I'll just do what AJ Preller does and keep developing them because I have the benefit of being really good at that and also knowing that I have an owner to cover the cost of doing something like that. And Preller has been able to convince the Padres organization in one way or another through multiple ownership groups now to give him the safety net to be able to operate this way. And where were the Padres 11 years ago? Not doing a lot.
Yeah, 5th place.
Trading away Adrian Gonzalez to the Red Sox. That's what they were doing 11 years ago. This is better than that.
I agree. What would this podcast be if there wasn't slight disagreement?
I love slight disagreement. It's my favorite kind of disagreement.
It's not even. It's not full-throated disagreement. You know.
Yeah.
I need to give myself enough wiggle room to be able to backpedal on this if they go all the way this year.
Right. You're playing both sides.
Exactly.
And that way, you always come out on top. Anything
you
else
asked me before we started recording. No, you asked me before we started recording, is there anything you want to talk about on the trade deadline? And I was like, honestly, no, not really. And then
here we are
40 minutes later.
All right, before we move on to talk about Bryce Harper, Nick Castellanos, and the Phillies, and Rob Manfred, and then before we're later joined by Hannah Kaiser, I want to say one more thing about the trade deadline, which was that I think that the existential crisis facing baseball, in the sense that there's not enough pitchers, was really on display at this trade deadline. A lot of relievers were moved.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of starters were moved. Even the teams that are winning don't have enough starters and just pitching in general, and enough arms to cover the innings. And I'm like, there's diminishing returns on this. We can't just have 50 relievers traded at every deadline. That's not a sustainable way to have baseball teams.
Right.
To just like
someone please help me calculate this. My sport is dying.
I was like almost stunned by how many relievers were moving and how much they were moving for. It just doesn't seem sustainable to me. Not to make this into a bring starters back conversation that we've had many times.
Yeah. This guy likes quality starts.
I came out on the top of this slight disagreement that we had 7 years ago.
I think you're right. I can see the point. We can put a period on that one.
Okay, great. Let's talk about
There
Bryce.
are not enough pitchers. Let's talk Bryce.
I really love this guy. I'll just hang on. For anyone who hasn't seen, let me read you a little tweet. Sorry. Let me read you a little post. This comes from Jeff Passan. He's done a lot of tweets this week. Let me tell you. For the trade deadline, this was his best and most important one, in my professional opinion, as a co-host of Tipping Pitches. Philadelphia Phillies star Bryce Harper stood nose to nose with MLB Commissioner Rob Manfred during a meeting last week and told him to, quote, "Get the fuck out of our clubhouse," end quote, if he wanted to talk about a salary cap, sources told ESPN. This gave way to a longer article in which Passan outlined what we know here over at Tipping Pitches, which is that Manfred has been going club to club to, in theory, improve the relationship between the league office. This is something that he talked about after the last CBA negotiation and lockout. The animosity that was felt during that negotiation was something that he claimed to want to remedy heading towards the next CBA. And part of that is that he felt like he didn't have enough face time with the players himself to indicate to them that he was available to hear about their wants and needs and desires and problems and just to try to strengthen that relationship. And so he's been going around since then to all 30 teams once per year to talk to them about problems facing the game. This is in theory. In practice, what this has become in the ramp up towards another collective bargaining agreement negotiation, in practice, what it has become is him kind of soft launching a salary cap, basically, which we've seen him do through the media, which we've seen him do by hiring former players to work for the commissioner's office, which we've seen owners do in conjunction with Manfred. Obviously, they were working hand in hand. And it got to the Phillies clubhouse, which is a clubhouse with some strong-headed and free-minded individuals.
Mm-hmm.
And it sounds like Bryce Harper, of all people, snapped and lost his shit on Manfred. The quotes coming out of this story, and I know we're all, and out of Hannah's reporting in the bandwagon, and now we're going to talk to Hannah in just a few minutes, kind of blew my mind, to tell you the truth. This is easily one of the 5 most militant things any player has done since we've been doing this podcast, which, by the way, is 8 years. I didn't really realize that Bryce had that dog in him like this.
Yeah, like this is kind of Scherzer level stuff.
I mean, notably, he played with Scherzer for the first 6 years of his career. I think that's not insignificant.
Yeah.
What did you think about this situation? I was obviously posting up a storm about it.
Right. Yes. Which is how I saw the news first, as I saw the notifications coming in.
Many such cases.
God. Yeah. Right. Exactly.
My favorite piece of this is the Mark DeRosa thing, which we'll probably get to later.
We will get to that. I do think that it's a testament to the skepticism with which a lot of players are reacting to Manfred's, quote unquote goodwill tour of these clubhouses. And frankly, I think that it is not entirely unrelated to the fact that he has been very clear and very direct about what his messaging is, how he's trying to go about convincing players.
Mm-hmm.
He has said it in multiple forms. He has, you have him basically saying under no uncertain terms that there will be a lockout, that we're headed toward a work stoppage, and that ownership would like a salary cap, and they are going to try and work baseball's quote unquote middle class, lower middle class, to see if these ideas will catch hold at all. The sense that I get is that he is talking about it, and he's not using the word salary cap, right? At least with the players. He's maybe doing this in other venues, but when it comes to the players, I think he sort of soft pedals that idea and talks more broadly about sort of the economic issues facing baseball right now, the disparity between teams. He is pointing to some of the ailments of baseball's economic system right now, maybe not even incorrectly so, but using that as an opportunity to almost Trojan horse in the idea that what if there was a way to keep those big spending teams in check a little bit, to create a little more parity across the league. It's heartening that players don't seem to be falling for it. Obviously, this is one anecdote. He is doing these, these clubhouse tours throughout the year. I don't want to put too much stock into that because we're a long way off from even beginning bargaining, even though that's effectively what he has been doing for the past year.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll talk with Hannah about some of the quotes from Nick Castellanos, but the sense that I get is that players recognize the imbalance of information and the sort of ability to talk through some of these issues and are somewhat skeptical of that. And I think that that's a good thing, is for workers to be skeptical when your boss comes into the workplace and says, the system is fucked, but I know how to fix it.
Yeah. You know what this sounds a lot like? It sounds like a mandatory closed door meeting. Like, not so different. I mean, obviously the MLBPA already exists, but it sounds not so different from how Amazon sits the entire factory down and says, here's all the ways that the union is going to prevent you from getting all of the money that you should be able to get here. This is just exactly what that is.
Yes, exactly. It's like it's handing out flyers that says, with your union dues, you could instead be buying like a new car or something like that. And wouldn't that be so much nicer?
Hannah describes by talking to Castellanos I think a important tension here, which is that Manfred is so well informed about all of this stuff and so savvy, and the word legalese comes up multiple times in the Bandwagon newsletter.
Right. I think Castellanos says he quote unquote eloquently spoke around the salary cap.
Yes, around using the phrase salary cap, because that's just like for the Players Association, like MK Ultra phrase at this point.
Right.
But like
that's the line in the sand.
Yes, exactly. But like it's notable for a lot of the same reasons that we talk about the league is able to manipulate public opinion, because it's like the tact that they have taken this time, that Manfred seems to be taking this time, is there are economic headwinds, things have become very confusing. Wouldn't it be nice if we just simplified all of this?
Mm-hmm.
Would it be nice if we just had a salary cap and that would just take all the pressure away? None of this luxury tax stuff, none of this arbitration, all of these different complicated archaic systems that don't really fit into the modern economy. What if we just made it really simple for you guys? And I, like you, am somewhat heartened that players are like, we're not fucking stupid. Like you're setting the house on fire and trying to sell us the fire extinguisher.
Exactly.
Like we're not stupid here. And I think that it helps when you have Tony Clark willing to actually be a little bit more aggressive with the way that he talks about what Manfred is doing. If Manfred is going to be like, well, there's going to be a lockout, then what's the point of worrying about fraying the relationship? It's already dead. You already are saying that we're pressing the nuclear launch button and hoping that we can disarm the missile before it hits you. Like you've already said that.
Yeah.
And Clark called the idea of the salary cap institutionalized collusion, which broadly I agree.
Yeah.
And that, I think, gives players a little bit more of a mandate, gives players a little bit more of the ability to get mad about this stuff. And Harper is such an interesting case, right? Because Harper, I think personally, his politics are like kind of probably non-existent, to be totally honest. Like I look at that man and I don't think that he thinks like about socio-political things. He might, I don't know. I don't know the guy. I've never talked to him.
Mm-hmm.
He just seems like baseball. I look at him, I think baseball. But if I think about his experience, this is the savior of baseball from the time that he is 13 years old. This is a guy who is on the cover of magazines, essentially giving away free PR for a sport that was so hungry for free PR, they were putting a 15-year-old on the cover of magazines instead of players who were actually in their league. This is someone who was drafted very highly and essentially rushed through the minors to be the savior of a franchise, which, by the way, only existed because of a bumbling owner who moved the team from Montreal where it should have stayed. Then he, like we talked about, he joins a team with a veteran leader like Max Scherzer, who is obviously historically very militant about all things union. And he also gets kind of like fucked in his experience with the Nationals. And undergirding all of this, he's also a Boris client. So the idea of maximizing your value is something that was instilled in him. Maybe even he cared about before even signing with someone like Boris, but certainly was reinforced by his agent throughout this process. And then he gets deeply lowballed by the team that drafted him and needed him to be the savior of the franchise. They want him to defer more than half of his contract 10 years in the future so that they can, quote unquote, afford to pay him. So then he goes into the market and has like no offers. one of the youngest, best free agents. He had one of the greatest offensive seasons of all time in 2015. He's now a 2-time NL MVP. Not at the time that he was a free agent. He was only a 1-time NL MVP then. But even still, one of the highest potentials, highest delivered players that we've seen in the 21st century. And he has like a couple offers, including reportedly or rumoredly not from the Yankees, the team that he actually wanted to go to and is the evil empire and should be able to afford any player who wants to go there and is good. And he ends up having to sign with the Phillies, who he seems to love being on now. A division rival of the Nationals, who they should have never let him go to that team. And he's just been awesome since then. That sequence of events, I think, can create a couple things and could create you thinking like, I am this exceptional person and that does not create solidarity within me, or it could just radicalize you. And I actually am really excited to hear that it seems like it radicalized Bryce Harper.
Yeah, well, I think that it would not have shocked me if after getting his big contract, he was not so interested in playing around with like labor relations. Like I think to a certain extent it's his duty, but I think a lot of like baseball players don't necessarily look at it that way. And so maybe it's not pulling the ladder up behind him, but I don't think it would have been crazy for Bryce Harper to sort of in another world say, yeah, you know what, maybe something does need to be done about this economic system, right? But he's drafted in an uncapped system, right? He makes, I think, like $10 million
Signing bonus.
From his signing bonus.
Yeah.
Again, it signs a massive contract with the Phillies in
Still
an
underpaid.
in an uncapped system. Still underpaid. Yeah. But if Bryce Harper came out and said, yeah, I'm good, I'll rest on my laurels, you guys need to work harder. Maybe not phrased so much like that. I wouldn't have shocked me. This does shock me.
Yeah.
That someone who has gotten to this level, who has come up through the ranks, but has gotten to the level where he is one of the game's biggest stars and has been for years and likely will continue to be for years, that he is willing to put himself out there and put his name behind this. I know technically this happened behind closed doors. He didn't really, he declined to comment on it further when asked about this.
Do you think he would decline to comment on tipping pitches?
I don't think so. No.
You think he would come on and talk about this?
I think he would, yeah.
You have people at Boris Corp. You can make this happen.
Right. I'm the one who writes
Boris
all his
Corp.
jokes.
No. I was going to do a bit. I was going to do a joke.
Fuck. Sorry, I stepped on it.
I was going to say your people at Boris Corp are the people who are secretly running the union, right?
Yeah. Is there a way to choose your own adventure in podcasting? People can. Do we want the Bobby joke or the Alex joke here?
Sound off in the comments. Like and subscribe.
I think it's important and relevant that players are essentially calling the league's bluff in what is effectively public, knowing that this is the kind of thing that gets out, right? Manfred has said we're headed towards a lockout. Also, we really want a salary cap. And to get a salary cap, the league likely has to be willing to forego games. And this is one of the game's biggest stars saying, fuck you on that salary cap talk. We're not listening to that.
This is one of the game's biggest stars saying directly, we are prepared. We are not scared to lose 162 games. That is a direct quote from the meeting, according to sources. Based.
That's pretty based.
Let's go. This is what we've been saying all along. Now, look, the fractures are coming. Not everyone feels the way Bryce Harper feels. Not everyone gets paid what Bryce Harper gets paid. It's about solidarity and messaging about why you would want to lose 162 games. What is that for? What are you standing behind? And who is that going to help?
Yeah.
That's important between now and when the lockout starts.
Yeah, I mean, as Hannah pointed out in her article, we know that these fractures already exist to some extent, right? We saw it in the last round of bargaining. How much has changed in those 5 years, I think does remain to be seen, because the answer is probably a lot.
If you would have told me in 2017 or 2018, when Bryce Harper was one of the original main characters of this podcast, that this is the type of shit that he would be doing 8 years from now or 7 years from now, I would have felt a lot better about the state of baseball than I feel about it in actuality.
Mm-hmm. Would have bought a lot more Blind Barber, that's for sure.
That's exactly right. Okay, well, more on that later. Let's go to our conversation with Hannah Kaiser about her reporting about this exact situation. Okay, we are once again joined by our friend Hannah Kaiser. Hannah, hello. I think that you might hold the title belt for most Tipping Pitches appearances.
Wow. I'm both like honored and a little concerned that I'm too available.
Like that makes you like not cool to come.
Yeah,
on
like
the
I should
Tipping
be
Pitches podcast many times?
You should be saying no to us more often.
I should have. Maybe I should sometimes have better things to do.
Do we play the card too often? Like, are we inviting you on too often? Is that
No,
what you're trying to imply?
no. I'm concerned that I don't have anything better to do. I feel this way whenever SNY schedules me for TV. They'll be like, "What's your availability in this window?" And I'll be like, very available.
The days
the
that end in
window.
Y.
Yeah, like I got nothing going on.
I feel like you kind of have a lot going on. You're doing a newsletter. You have a
Thank you.
child. You know, you
that's
have a
true.
life. The whole
Yes,
thing.
I do always schedule things, and then I'm like, right, I have this child.
It's just still sinking in. You know,
I'm working on a newsletter for the parenting newsletter. That's like, how are parents always doing things? Because I cannot figure out how to do things other than podcasts that I record at 7:45 because the baby's bedtime is at 7:30.
Yeah, for free.
So, yeah,
With two chuckleheads over here.
Yeah, about that.
Well, you're very kind and generous to join us to talk about whatever the fuck happened in the Phillies clubhouse this past week. Rob Manfred held his, what are we calling this? Are we calling this like his goodwill tour? Are we calling it his like subtle salary cap tour? Like, do we have a good name for this?
I think he would probably call it the goodwill tour.
Uh-huh. How much goodwill would you say is being generated from this tour?
Less now. I wish we had a thorough accounting. It feels like someplace like The Athletic that has people everywhere should do this. I would love to know who he has and has not spoken to. Mm-hmm. I would love like a thorough accounting of kind of like a before and after the Phillies clubhouse.
Yeah.
I'm curious how the going public of that will affect the meetings going forward, which we should get into at some point.
Just quickly on that point, I have not heard of him talking with the Mets, which historically have been well represented amongst the MLB Players Association. Many Mets players have served on the executive council. Obviously, Scherzer when he was with the Mets, Lindor was on the executive sub-council for the last negotiation. And they seem to be like one of the more militant clubhouses in Major League Baseball, which is confusing. So I haven't heard of him meeting with the Mets, although I could have just not heard about this. It's not like I'm plugged in or anything like that. I'm just a fan. So I felt like it would have come across my timeline. And then the other one is the Blue Jays, because Scherzer is there now, and that was reported by
that was reported that he had not met with them. Well, part of what's I think interesting about the Phillies one is that we haven't really gotten a sense of how any of the other meetings went until I went down there and was like, heard this one went interestingly. And then as a result, sort of, like part of what I heard when I got down there was someone saying to me like, oh, I at least know that the Phillies one was at a bare minimum longer than the Red Sox one, because the Red Sox were the other team that was there. Yeah. And I was sort of like, see, this is interesting. Like, I want to be able to put them all in context with each other because of how sort of, right. Like, you're right. I also don't know if he met with the Mets yet. He could have. They seem like a very easy team to get to. So I don't know why he wouldn't have. And right now I want this like holistic view of at least like when he met with different teams and who he was sort of meeting with in conjunction with those teams.
In the bandwagon, right? You
yes.
The lovely newsletter that you write.
Thank you.
Little plug. We'll do the plug again at the end of the episode. You speak with Nick Castellanos, who is somewhat surprisingly maybe candid about the conversation. He doesn't go into too many specifics, right? But he's willing to talk with you. I mean, how did that conversation come about, and were you surprised at all at sort of his candor in talking about this, especially when a lot of players were like, no comment on this?
Yeah, so I actually think I think Nick is like Nick is very interesting. How the meeting happened Monday. I heard that it was heated. I was in New York. They're in Philly. Tuesday morning, I was like, should I just drive down there? I'm trying to decide how much. I had heard some specifics, but I heard that the meeting was certainly heated, that it was interesting. And I was kind of like, I got to do something for Bandwagon tomorrow. Bandwagon comes out on Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And Tuesday, I was like, I think I'm just going to drive down there. I'm going to drive down there. And I'm armed with the fact that I've heard it was interesting. And I got to the clubhouse. Nick was the first guy I saw. I know him decently well. And so I started with just like, hey, was the commissioner here yesterday? And he said yes. And then we talked about it. What I thought was really interesting was, I don't mind giving like this kind of behind the scenes. I spoke with Nick in the clubhouse. We talked about it for a little while. And he said some of the things that I reported. And then I tried and failed to get Bryce Harper, which I'm disappointed with. He just I didn't get a chance to talk to him. It was like some national game happening. So there's like a lot of media, surprising amount of media. In fact, I was like texting people being like, do they also know? Because there's like a surprising amount of national media here. And then later Castellanos came up to me and said, you can use my name provided you don't, let me figure out how, he did not want it, he wanted to make specific points. He said, you can use my name, you can quote me directly. But he wanted to play up, I think he wanted to play up less about the altercation aspect and more about this feeling of like, the players need to be better educated and better informed and better prepared. And I thought that was interesting.
Yeah. Less about the sort of like salacious headline pieces of what people might respond to on social media and more about the substance of what the disagreement was about.
Exactly. And so that's the like, how the sausage is made, how that came together. I still wish that there were other players did say, I don't want to talk about it. But they did it in a way that they didn't deny anything.
Right. Yeah.
Which was helpful. But if I didn't have Nick, who had some specific thoughts he wanted to get there. And I thought it was very interesting sort of seeing then what ESPN put out there that they also quoted him, because I think it like, you can kind of breadcrumb it, or I can just tell it to you that like, it does seem like he kind of wanted this to be productive, the making public of this, which is an interesting strategic choice. And also just like an interesting personal choice that he made. He clearly was like, I'm going to try to, it's an interesting sort of almost like media strategy choice to be like, all right, like people can report on this if they put out there some things that I think are really important to get out there.
Yeah. Castellanos is a really interesting guy. I mean, I know you know this from covering him, but and I have heard this from other people who have been in and around the Phillies clubhouse and have talked to him about other stuff. He's just like, there's just like a lot going on with him. Like he just like wants to have the conversation, it seems like. And that is part of what is really interesting about this to me, that it was the Phillies in particular that sort of blew up Manfred's spot. I mean, you astutely point out in your newsletter that like the players aren't stupid. And like, this is a very, very thinly veiled, a project that Manfred is on. Like, the owners are straight up. Rubenstein literally said, we need to have a salary cap.
Right.
And other owners have basically said as much too. And every owner has alluded to this time immemorial that a salary cap would be their preferred system. And what Manfred is doing here, as much as he wants to say that it's tied to, 5 years ago CBA negotiation, and the animosity that was laced within that, it's pretty clear that he's talking about like these economic forces and things like that, and not actually talking about like the relationships at the core of what's going on in the labor dynamic. Did you get the sense that like either players or like if you've talked to anyone on the league side, you don't have to blow up anyone's spot, but like, did you get the sense that Manfred was kind of put on the back foot by his response that he got from the Phillies and from Harper and Castellanos and Trey Turner in particular?
I don't know. That I don't know. I think it's somebody's job to keep them informed, but I also understand that like they are pretty locked in season. And so this is like, to me and to you, it feels very transparent and very like calculated, and all of these meetings and the like, I put this in the newsletter, the sort of the stuff that came out at that like Braves event or whatever feels very like, oh, he's just saying the strategy out loud and like the players are going to see this. But I do think
event where you can buy stock in the Atlanta Braves you're referring to. Yes.
I think part of my takeaway from talking to Nick was that like the players do not have time to be like kind of like connecting those dots of like what Manfred is doing, but like you said, they're not stupid, and so I think that like that's sort of what I mean about like I am curious about how other meetings have gone, because obviously like the Phillies could have been prepared for this based on like reading The Athletic, or they could have been reacting in the moment to what felt like someone kind of talking down to them. And I'm curious kind of like which of those two things feels more likely if you took a poll like kind of across the league. Because to get back to what we were saying before, like now this, like maybe they didn't see The Athletic stories about the Braves investor event, but I bet every player now knows that Bryce Harper cursed out the commissioner. And so that's really going to change the way that it is going forward. Because I think like, does that make sense? That it's like they were, whether or not they know the owners want a salary cap, sure, whatever, like the specific strategy of Manfred and going and approaching the players in their clubhouse, I think probably struck a lot of players as like totally normal, innocent, whatever. He's just like almost like kind of perfunctory, like, you're a kid in school and you're having an assembly. Right. And so it's really, to me, it's like really interesting that the Phillies, like, I want to know why they clocked that this was nefarious. And then I also want to know like how this getting public changes the way that other clubhouses read the Manfred meetings.
Did you have a sense of what Nick Castellanos is looking for in terms of filling that information gap, right? Because I think in the bandwagon, you talk about sort of the quote unquote legalese, right? That Manfred is obviously super well versed in. And obviously you're not going to say, okay, here you go. Like read this legal document, read this, dense piece of literature or something like that. I don't know. I'm curious what, just even in your perspective, maybe what you think is effective at kind of meeting them there.
Well, I thought part of what was interesting is that I think, and again, this is like inference. This is not something anyone specifically said to me. I think that is part of what the players were frustrated with, like specifically feeling like, and I get it. They felt like this guy's trying to, like this was mentioned in, I think, the other accounts of that meeting. Every account of that meeting that I've seen, I think, has said that Manfred did not say salary cap. But I think that annoyed the players. I think that that's something like that feeling of like, why don't you just tell us what you're actually proposing? And the tricky thing is like, he's not going to do that. Like that onus is on the union to like translate that for the players in a way. Like that's on whoever the Phillies rep is, which Nick Castellanos did not know.
Do you know who it is?
No, I don't. You know what? It was someone who had like gotten sent down or something or traded. Like he's like, I know who it was last year. Like that's not good.
Yeah.
That's bad.
Because I think like I don't want to just like pin all of this on Nick just because he was the one who was like willing to go put himself out there with this. Like, I think there's a sense among the players that like we're straight shooters. Manfred is not. But like he's not gonna be like, hey guys, what do you feel about a salary cap? Yes or no? Like, and then I'll run with whatever you guys feel. Like, that's not how negotiations work. This is like a big part of when I've written about labor stuff. This is like something that I try to emphasize, and I know you guys know this, that like the antagonism is baked into the dynamic almost on purpose. That like it is Manfred's job to represent the ownership side of things. Like that like there has to be that side of the seesaw sort of, and then there has to be something on the other side. And like you know what I mean? Like, so Manfred is going to use every tool at his disposal to try to benefit the people he represents. And so it is like, in some ways, this is again my editorializing, a little like naive of the players to want him to be more direct in these meetings. I thought that Evan Drellick's piece about the retired players who are now working on behalf of the league, to me, when I initially read that, that struck me as very kind of like in the weeds. Like my husband, because he's an editor, was asking me how I felt about the reporting, the post-Harper reporting about Mark DeRosa and being in that meeting. He was like, does that feel sort of like too, like, is that something we should be looking into at the AP, or does that strike you as like sort of just like too minor? And I was like, well, I think it's really interesting because I understand why Evan wrote about that, because to me, it's now sort of clear he's like tracking this strategy that Manfred is trying, which is a different strategy than he had in the last negotiation. Yeah. And that strategy is sort of to appear on the player's side, even though he obviously isn't. Mm-hmm. And so I think that strategy is working if the impression is that like he should just tell it to us like a man that he's trying to implement a salary cap. And I'm kind of like, he's not going to do that, guys. Like that's you guys need someone in the room who's like
translating Manfred speak.
Yes,
basically.
Exactly. And so I think it's interesting, right? Like I actually think that like what's bubbling up with the Phillies clubhouse stuff is all very like, this is actually all incredibly telling. That like what's happening is Manfred, he's trying to not say salary cap. He's bringing these ex-players to these meetings. He's very much trying to spin it all as goodwill. And the players are like starting to clock that something is suspicious about that. And Harper's blowing up, whether that's like just because he feels like he's being condescended to, or because like, I don't necessarily know that he would have blown up if Manfred was just like, we're probably going to propose a salary cap, see y'all. Cause that's like, they know that like there is something about this approach that was like working to not have these blow ups. And thus we weren't hearing about them until he got to the Phillies clubhouse, and it pissed some people off. It rubbed them the wrong way, whether that's the condescension or the specifics of what he was proposing, or this feeling that they were getting kind of like talked around, or even the DeRosa of it all, Mark. Like maybe like something about that, it like that strategy suddenly felt obvious or nefarious in a way that like I don't know how they put that back. Like how like I don't know how they like get back on this track of being like no, it's all goodwill.
It's a really interesting mishmash of relational dynamics going on here. I think a really big and underrated piece of it is that not many people talk to lawyers very often.
Yeah.
And like in the setting, I'm sure people talk to lawyers. You're married to a lawyer, or your uncle's a lawyer or whatever. But like in the setting where they are doing their job, it's not often that you talk to someone and they speak back to you in this sort of like double speak roundabout way that lawyers communicate things in, and particularly labor concepts that, as you mention, that these are passionate conversations with the implication that affects these guys' livelihoods that Castellanos talked about. Like, it's really frustrating to be talked to like that. I speak from firsthand experience. Like, what if we just said what we fucking meant so that we could take the air out of this a little bit and we could actually like get to a destination faster, rather than just like fucking around and hearing about your like weirdly specific points and proposals. Like you report here that he like was talking about floating specific counter proposals 2 years in advance for like a CBA that they've already said that they're going to lock the players out. Like, how can you even say that you know what you're going to propose now when you're just committing to locking the players out before bargaining has even truly begun? People like are not going to respond well to that.
Maybe I'll look into reporting what some of those were because Nick
even if you don't report them, please tell us.
I don't think we can run with that. Yes, right, and yes. So I think that like I think that the Manfred was right. I wrote this that Manfred was right to think something is going on with the way that the voting broke down at the end of the last CBA negotiation, with the executive subcommittee voting against it and the rank and file, or the people who represent the rank and file, the player reps, overwhelmingly voting for it. Like, there is a divide, and that divide, I think, is less of like an ideological divide necessarily, and more of like a informational or like a labor acumen divide within the player ranks. That problem doesn't necessarily exist on the league side because it's only 30 people and they're all businessmen, and like and so there's just like less of a, I think that's like, I think Manfred's strategy actually is to try to exploit the fact that most baseball players are not like super labor savvy or interested even. And that is the strategy more so even than like talk to them one-on-one or whatever. Like, the strategy is just like, wait a minute, I think we're not exploiting enough the differences in the like size and makeup of the population on the ownership side versus the player side, which I think is really different than in other labor unions necessarily. Like, the best thing the owners have going for them is that baseball players are necessarily pretty singularly focused on baseball. Like, that is, anyone who covers a professional athlete closely will tell you, like, wow, overwhelmingly what's weird about them is they only think about that sport. And that's, to their credit, 99% of the time. And it is interesting to see the league be like, what if we tried to use that against them?
The phrase, we're not exploiting enough, fill in the blank here, is kind of like the mantra of, frankly, like, bosses, right? That's kind of like, that is the role, is to look for any place you can squeeze a little bit more out of them. But I don't know. I think that's very well said.
But I often think like Spotty, I know, like, you have the experience of like, in media labor fights, that is to the management side's detriment. That like many people on the opposing side have like all the time in the world sort of like educate themselves on this, because it like behooves their day job in addition to what they're doing at the bargaining table to be like well informed on labor issues and that kind of thing. That's just not we cannot get around the fact that is simply not true in baseball. Like, that is, the baseball players have to be pretty focused on baseball. It's every day. Like, it's very demanding. And that's that, to me, that's the hill. Like, what this news story actually like clarified for me, maybe like this is not the like, again, salacious part of the headline, is that like, that's the big battle that they have from here on out, is that like, and I think that the Harper blow up, that's a point in the players' favor in sort of overcoming that. Like I was saying at the beginning, like, I think that is something that says like, hey, when Manfred comes to your clubhouse, like, be a little suspicious.
Yeah. And we've been talking about this for like a year now on this podcast. Like, is someone ever going to like get mad publicly? Like, is someone ever going to like call this shit out? Like, it's really easy to see. And if you're paying attention to it, it's really easy to see the path that they're trying to take. Like, I think the tact that Manfred is taking to this is, aside from the fact that they've always wanted a salary cap, his point now is like, things are getting really complicated in the business world and in the marketplace. And wouldn't it just be more simple if we had a salary cap instead of all of these other complicated systems? Let's just make it's really simple. All the other leagues have it. Look how much money they all make. Like, let's just get a salary cap. And that's just dumb, and it should be called out, and Bryce Harper should get mad, and like not just Bryce Harper, and not just people who make $330 million, and not just Max Scherzer who's played 20 years in the league. Like it should just we need to draw more dividing lines in the sand between management and labor. Like I don't like what is happening here, where it seems like we're normalizing the idea that Rob Manfred is your friend. Like Rob Manfred's not your friend. I don't like what's going on that front.
A few weeks ago on the bandwagon, Zach, my co-author of the bandwagon, wrote something where he was like, I want you to write about what you make from a baseball labor perspective of the WNBA players wearing those like pay us what you owe us shirts on the field or on the court. That's where they play. They play on a court. And I was like, yeah, it's interesting to me that I like simply cannot imagine baseball players doing this, even though they meet with the media constantly and are like in the public eye constantly. They don't do like labor organizing displays of solidarity, really. Again, like with the media background that I have, like, we used to all change our Twitter avatars. Yeah. Like they don't, they could. And we did that because part of what the power is that people in media have is sort of like public visibility to sort of like show solidarity. Baseball players have that. They have it a lot more than we had it.
God,
and they don't
so sick.
Sort of take that opportunity.
Think how much of a wave that would make. Meanwhile, I'm like tweeting shit and it's getting fucking reposted to the Bill Simmons subreddit and thousands of people are commenting on it. Imagine if like an actual famous person was doing something like this and talking about these issues candidly.
Well, and I thought that we would get, like, the thing that I got wrong is sort of like, I expected there to be some amount of solidarity, if not like literal labor furor over the A's situation. I can't believe we couldn't get players being like, hey, seems like that sucks for them. Like players across the league should be like, fucking sucks that those guys got to play in a minor league ballpark. Like,
yes,
like that feels like a solidarity thing that they could do that would not necessarily be about money, which gets at, I actually brought the WNBA shirt point up to Nick Castellanos, and he was like, well, people don't love when we complain about our salaries because we make millions of dollars. And I was like, that's fair. But that's sort of why I thought that, like, I thought we would see some amount of, like, Luis Severino got crushed for complaining about it. And people were like, well, why'd you take the money to go there, man? And it's like, I mean, sure, fine. But like, he didn't get crushed by the players. I mean, like, he got crushed by like people on Twitter. But right, that's an instance where like, I expect there to be more like, hey, we're serious people and we show up prepared, and for the owners to not show up prepared with a ballpark.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I feel like, why are we not getting that?
Right. It's not on him that one of the 30 workplaces is not actually hospitable. It's like someone's got to play there, and if it's not him, it's going to be some other player who signs there and probably has a similarly bad experience.
Exactly. That's my critique of the Major League Baseball players. Like all 1,200 of them this year is like, why are you guys not complaining about that? That, like, you should be complaining about it all the time. Like that is not a, we don't make enough money, which I understand is like not going to be a sympathetic complaint necessarily, but that is a show of solidarity and a show of like, hey, we have reasonable demands here and they are not being met by the people on the other side. I can't believe that like we're halfway through the baseball season and it's just like stopped being a storyline that two teams, but I'm going to give the Rays a pass, are playing in minor league ballparks, and we don't hear about it every night from baseball players being like, hey, we're holding up our end of the bargain and they're not holding up their end of the bargain.
In the interest of time, and also the fact that if we start talking about John Fisher, this actually will go on another 30 minutes and we're already double the time that we said we were going to take from you, Hannah. I'm going to say thank you and plug for people to go subscribe to the bandwagon. And of course, we really appreciate your time. Anything else that you're working on specifically that people should be looking out for?
I am actually. I'm working on a big feature that's supposed to come out soon about youth baseball. And I'm really excited about it. I want to do more stories about youth sports. So people have like, that's my plug is not even like to read my work. It's to like find me and send me story ideas if you have story ideas about youth sports, because I want to do more coverage in that space.
Okay, thank you to Hannah. Is Hannah the most frequent guest in the history of Tipping Pitches?
I think she might be.
It's either kind of Hannah like or Shakia.
Yeah.
At this point, it's certainly not Jake Mintz, who dodged us last time. Jordan, innocent. Jake, the fuck out of here.
Cowardly,
rude, even standoffish, big timing us. All right. Do you want to quickly talk about the 8-year anniversary of the podcast?
I think we should.
I thought we could mark this occasion by going backwards through who has sort of occupied the main character role of the podcast in the time since we've done this. So I wrote down 8 names here. I know you might have a couple other fringe contenders, and I'm going to go in chronological order.
What does chronological mean in this sense? Like chronological by when they were a main character?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay.
When they chronological in the sense of the podcast, not chronological in the sense that these people
when
exist
they were born
on different timelines. The podcast has just been so different at different times. I was thinking about this not that long ago. I was just like going through some old episodes and being like, we used to kind of just like try to talk normally about baseball, and now it's just like a series of elaborate games that we play every week, like tasting all of these alcohols, or like going through the Forbes list, or like all of our best episodes are like really high concept, like bits essentially. I don't know how that happened. All podcasts are on a progression towards doing stuff like that. But when we started, we were, I think, really motivated to start a podcast because of the crop of players at the time who were kind of emerging as faces of the league, a stark break from the really boring era of the late 2000s and 2010s. And as we have joked about many times on this podcast, the abundance of shortstops episode that we did really early on. And so the names that I wrote down from that were Lindor, Baez, and Correa, who was just traded, by the way, back to the Astros. And we didn't even talk about that in the trade deadline segment, which is, I still haven't really wrapped my head around that. I don't have a take about it. He's coming home. Do you want to sing a little "I'm Coming Home" for the listeners?
Coming home.
Yep.
That's all you get. The rest is on the Patreon.
Isn't there like a nice plug?
Tell the world.
And how could people get 50% off? By using
promo code. I almost said Pivatka. Use promo code Piazza.
I wanted
Piazza.
I wanted to make it P-Vodka, but I figured people wouldn't be able to spell that.
Izza. Who dat?
What is happening? So Lindor, Baez, and Correa. Do you agree that those were kind of the initial main characters of the podcast?
Well, I think they were mostly, honestly, by default, right? It was like
everybody gets a trophy?
Kind of, yeah. Well, I think, as we've said, like the idea very early on, in fact, I think in our first episode description, we're like, Bobby and Alex are two people who, one, love baseball, two, pretend to know what they're talking about, and three, like to have a bit of fun. It's like, oh, okay.
Did you go back and listen to the first episode to pull that?
No, but it was like in the episode description.
Oh, okay. All right, great.
So
you mean our first episode was not, this is going to be raw, uncut takes about the game of baseball?
We would have been forgiven if that was the case.
We were trying to counter program Barstool.
We actually were.
We still are.
So yes, I think you're right that those were kind of the main characters. Once we had developed a bit more of a structure to the show, gotten a little more comfortable in our respective roles in what we were creating, I think that we dispensed with the need for talking about baseball, really, which led to a lot more interesting conversations, I think.
Yeah. I think the next main character of the show actually was Bryce Harper for a while. I mean, he was like in a lot of ways like a main character and still is, as evidenced by the fact that we talked about him for 40 fucking minutes in this podcast in the baseball world. We were interested in him for different reasons, which was that he became a partial investor in a barber shop in New York City because he cared so much about his hair and beard. This is one of the funniest things that's ever happened.
It was when we got really comfortable just like doing stuff live on the pod. We were like learning things in real time. We were just on the Blind Barber website being like, did you know they have this?
It was, if I remember correctly, it was a good website.
It was a good website.
It made me want to spend $79.99 on
it did.
pomade or whatever.
The off season between 2018 and 2019.
What about it?
Great off season.
Sure. I don't know what happened in that off season.
I don't either. A lot of Bryce stuff because we titled. We were like including him in our titles a lot. We were really, really talking a lot about him for like 6 straight months. First of all, the first one, the first episode with his name in the title, I frankly don't know how I got away with. Do you know what it was? Because it was called The Bryce Harper Grooming Experience. Take that for what you will.
That's so crazy. Oh my god!
And then we have then we did the following month we did Does Bryce Harper Need a Friend? And a couple months later we did Paying the Bryce, and then the next
Paying the Bryce was good. That's good.
This Is Why We Can't Have Bryce Things.
I like that one the best, actually.
Me too.
This is a little bit of a detour. When did we decide that every episode needed to be a pun, and how have we kept that up for 8 years?
I don't know. I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure this was a you thing.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure we were sort of like taking influence from Effectively Wild doing that. And potentially Chapo, which you were listening to and I was not.
Right. Well,
just to be clear, so that I'm on the record.
You got to start somewhere, you know? I don't know. We were just having fun. I think we were trying to go against the grain too. It's like, what are we gonna make our titles SEO friendly? No, fuck that.
You know, every time we do make our titles SEO friendly, like way more people listen to the podcast. You know that, right? I put like Red Sox trade Devers in the title the other day, and like 1,000 more people downloaded.
I know.
Just because like it was the same kind of bullshit. Like our content wasn't any better or less ridiculous.
It's also going back through the archives is just and like looking at the descriptions of what we're talking about really funny, because I read this sentence: Alex and Bobby banter about the respective debuts of the 2 biggest prospects in baseball, in Ronald Acuna and Mac Williamson. I
don't remember that.
And then what happens?
I don't remember that at all.
I don't either. I don't even know who Mac Williamson is.
Who is that? Sorry to this man. Oh, he was on the Giants?
The Giants? Yep.
He's 35 now.
Oh my God.
Wow.
It's quite possible that, quote, biggest prospects in baseball was overstating it a little bit.
Right. And also, he came up in 2015, so I don't know what the fuck we were talking about.
All right. Fascinating stuff.
Okay. So Harper occupied a 6-month period.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I guess. I didn't really know it was that long, but that's interesting to me. I did use Bryce Harper's hair product for a little while. My mom bought it for me as a bit. I actually liked it. I would buy it again if it weren't for the fact that I just still buy the same hair product from Target every time I go. If Bryce Harper could get Blind Barber in Target, that'd be really convenient.
It's
for me.
over.
So let's work on that, Bryce. Let's work on that. Okay, after we moved on from Bryce, we went to Tebow.
Mm-hmm.
Tebow was in there because he was making his comeback, and we thought that it was really funny. And we also honestly thought that we had a pretty good shot of getting him on the podcast because he was putting out a book and he was on the Mets.
Yep.
Never worked out.
Stonewalled.
We tried. We asked a lot of times. Long storied history of asking people to come on the podcast and getting a no.
Mm-hmm. I feel like there's a longer, more storied history of us just shooting our shot and never hearing anything.
Yes, there is also a long, not quite as storied history of us reaching out, getting a yes, and then the guest not doing it. I won't name any names.
No.
No.
But if you were at the meetup in Brooklyn, you know who.
Or if you follow New York City politics, you might know. Right, you might think.
Okay.
Maybe be able to think of a name or two.
Tim Tebow, we had the Power Hour. We were doing the Power Hour before the Power Hour.
Not a good segment.
It
was like really good for like a month. And then it was like, oh, he's hitting 208 again.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
I almost said 281. He never hit 281.
He never.
Okay, he had 3 doubles this month.
Right. We were giving him and the Mets all the free PR that they were looking for from that.
Right, exactly. We did, however, go see him.
No, I did. No, you did. Yeah.
In my mind, you were there.
I know. That's
how I feel
frankly,
about
that's kind of
things.
sweet, honestly.
I was there, so you were there. Okay, Tebow. The next person that I have written down is Manfred.
Yeah.
But I don't know if there's anyone in between there. So what do you think about that?
Well, so I don't know. So I was going back through our archives, right? And sort of trying to see where did like the names start popping up? Like where do we really start referencing these people? And frankly, we were in on Manfred pretty early on.
Okay.
Like we were talking about Manfred in the first 2 or 3 episodes. Wow. I don't know if that qualifies as him being a main character, because I do think it took a couple years for us to really identify him as like maybe the source of some of the things that we were talking about more broadly.
What year did I start discovering that he was from Rome, New York?
Kind of
like last year.
I think it was probably when we did main character month, right?
Maybe. I feel like I was doing the Woodstock 99 bit before main character month.
Maybe. I think you've always been doing the Woodstock 99 bit.
No, because I didn't know about Woodstock 99 until the Ringer documentary about it. And that was like 2021. There's no one else in between Tebow and Manfred?
Well,
because what comes next, I have Manfred, I have Marvin Miller here, who we've done several episodes now about at this point.
Yeah.
Only one that was fully about him, most recently in main character month in December. But he has been sort of like the underlying main character to the whole like labor era of the podcast.
Yes.
Which I think we've kind of like moved out of, by the way. Is that true? Like we kind of do talk about labor, and we're obviously very pro labor, but we don't really talk about like labor issues as much as we used to.
Yeah. Well, we're saving ourselves. Next year's a big year.
That's true. Good point.
I think it's fair to slot Manfred in there. I do think the obvious one here.
Yes.
It comes earlier in our timeline than I frankly recalled.
No, I remember that episode. I remember it because it was fucking annoying to edit.
Wait, what are you talking about?
I'm talking about A-Rod.
Yeah, but I don't think it didn't start with his rules to life, I don't think.
No, not rules to life. Of course he was the main character.
Okay.
Years before that. He's been in the outro of the podcast since 2020.
That's right, yeah.
No. He became a true main character of the podcast. We were kind of like making jokes about him haphazardly, like we would any character in the baseball world. But he got hired to Fox. We started talking about how he was kind of good at that. We stopped talking about him for a little while. And then his YouTube channel took off.
Yeah.
And he did an episode about tipping pitches. And we essentially like annotated it. I don't know why I pronounced that so weirdly. We annotated it. We annotated the video. And that's when the outro became a thing.
Yeah.
And that's when we became obsessed with his whole social media presence. And then it was like the J-Lo thing. And he was going to buy the Mets. And it was just like a rocket ship to the moon from there.
Yeah, it was off from there. Well, as soon as it was like, I think a few months after we did the deep dive into his YouTube channel that he came out and said, even leads. You always want
Right,
even
he used
leads
to be
versus
in the
odd
ESPN
leads.
booth.
Yes. So we had a lot to talk about then. Once he said that, it was like over for us. I was like, I need to talk about this man on a daily basis.
And then there was the K-Rod cast era, which like quietly died. I kind of miss that.
I do too.
And then the whole like Jeter thing, and they squashed the beef. Like, there's been so much good stuff to come out of that.
Yeah.
Obviously, A-Rod will never go away. Tipping Pitches is a Yankees podcast. I went to 2 Yankees games this week, which is horrible. I can't believe
Shameful.
This. Really not good stuff. But I'm wondering who you think might be next, or who are some of the fringe guys that didn't get mentioned.
So I was
Morgan Sword's coming next.
I took I took this way too seriously, and so I started creating a list of like main characters and then like recurring characters.
Jesus, I love this. Let's go. Lay it on.
Because we had a lot of like guys who just came out, like Ross Stripling, for example, for a long time.
His portfolio.
We were his biggest fan. That's a licensed stockbroker.
How do you think his fintech portfolio is doing?
Has it pivoted to AI yet? I don't know.
Is there any way for it to not pivot to AI?
Probably not. No. Joe West as well.
Yeah.
We were like listening
Cowboy
to his
Joe.
podcast, Cowboy Joe.
You were listening to his podcast.
That's true.
I was listening to just his music.
Bartolo felt like kind of an edge case to me, but I think that like some of these guys we talked about because like everyone loved them, and we were like, we're fun. We should talk about Joey Votto, you know?
Oh yeah, that's true. What about J Happ?
J Happ, another great one. Now we're just remembering some guys that we talked about on our podcast. Nick Castellanos.
Yeah, Castellanos
has kind of been a long time recurring character.
Yeah, that's true. Good point.
We also talked about just the Dodgers for like the first 3 episodes.
I know.
It was like, we hope you're not sick of Dodgers content because we're still talking about them.
The more things change, the more they stay the same. I mean, Kike Hernandez was literally on the team. We were still talking about him back then, and we're still talking about him now.
Yep.
Remember his engagement photos? Stripling was a while. That was a curveball. I wasn't expecting that.
I know.
Who else?
I don't know. I mean, I wrote down Cavill. He was a recurring character for a while. Bob Nightingale. Dave Cavill, yeah.
You're talking about Dave Cavill?
His brother Steve.
You mean Dave Cavill, the guy working at the intersection of business and politics in California?
Nice. Nicely done.
That Dave?
The one and only.
Dave Cavill.
If anyone knows what he's up to.
Was it sports, business, and politics? I don't remember.
Yeah, something like that. I choose to forget.
Yeah, and then that's kind of all the owners too. I mean,
right, the owners,
Castellini.
Yeah.
Nightingale's a good one. Middleton, obviously Uncle Stevie,
Fisher,
Atanasio, and his sand. Fisher, of course. I mean, all right, this was fun. 8 years of the pod. How about that? 2 presidential terms.
Blink of
it's
an eye.
Over. We're constitutionally required to stop doing the podcast now.
Thank God. Someone pull the plug.
Term limits have come for us in a way that they don't, or maybe might not come for other people.
No, much like the good Democrat that I am, I'm going to be doing this long after I should have retired.
Okay. Thanks again to Hannah for being a part of this just really coherent episode that she didn't even know she was a part of. Thanks to everyone for listening. Reminder, 50% off the Patreon, which means that you get the top, that from now until the end of August is when this discount code is active. You can sign up to get the top tier of the Patreon for half the price, which is the same price as the lower tier. So you can get the $10 value for $5. And that will get you access to part 2 of our baseball booze taste test. It just doesn't feel right. We're going to figure it out, though. Part 1 coming right here on the main feed next week. Booze ball. That's something. Okay. Now that is something. That's food for thought between now and tomorrow.
Look at that last 30 seconds of the episode.
I love this for us. And
Now
I
I'm
love
warm.
the fact that potentially there might even be 3 to 5 people still listening at this point in the episode. So thank you. We'll talk to you next week.
Hello, everybody. I'm Alex Rodriguez. Tipping pitches.
Tipping pitches.
This is the one that I love the most.
Tipping pitches.
So we'll see you next week. See ya!